The death of 9-year-old Stacey Lawrence have released new details about their inquiry.
They say Stacey may have been sexually assaulted before she was strangled. They've also given more information about the background of her mother's partner, Darren Walker, whose body was found nearby and who's thought to have killed her.
Stacey's body was discovered in the cab of Mr Walker's lorry in Warmington near Oundle in Northamptonshire on Saturday. Well, Neil Bradford is at Warmington for us now. Neil, the police have told us quite a lot today, haven't they?
Yes, much more detail is emerging about what started as an adventure for 9-year-old Stacey Lawrence. She spent the day with her mother's boyfriend on his lorry, delivering to convenience stores right across East Anglia, starting with a trip to the coast in Great Yarmouth and then to stores right across Norfolk. Now, this was a man that Stacey had just started calling Dad, a man the family trusted. No one could have imagined that her adventure would end with such tragic circumstances here in Northamptonshire. This is the woman who has the unenviable task of trying to make sense of the most senseless of murders. Detective Chief Inspector Tricia Kirk can only guess what made a boyfriend kill his partner's bright and popular daughter. She says lorry driver Darren Walker may have sexually assaulted 9-year-old Stacey Lawrence before strangling her and then taking his own life.
There was no suicide note, but we think this is probably, it wasn't a planned event. I think it was on his conscience when he realised what he'd done, he then decided to take his own life.
Stacey's body was discovered inside the lorry's cab, parked up at a truck stop alongside the A605 near Oundle in Northamptonshire. The body of the man she and her family trusted was found hanging from a tree in nearby woods. The pair had spent Friday together delivering to Spar shops across Norfolk, including stores in Hemsby and Ormsby St Michael. News of the little girl's death has devastated all that knew her in her hometown of West Bromwich.
Stacey was a lovely girl, delightful, very popular with her schoolmates, very kind and very generous. She loved school, absolutely adored coming to school and enjoyed every aspect of school.
The alarm was raised after Walker failed to return the lorry to its base in the West Midlands. A tracking device led police to the scene where the lorry was unlocked with its curtains drawn. Detectives say they now have a clear picture of the hours before the lorry parked up here, but are missing crucial detail about the time after that. It's known the pair left the West Midlands for Great Yarmouth in the early hours of Friday morning before making deliveries across Norfolk. At 3 p.m. the lorry makes a short stop just outside Peterborough. 35 minutes later, it arrives in the lay-by off the A605 in Warmington. At 7 o'clock that evening, another driver spots Walker and Stacey outside the lorry. He says there was nothing to arouse suspicion. Later, during a phone call home, Stacey's mum hears her talking and watching television in the background.
We're interested in speaking to any women that have had a relationship, a long-term relationship or otherwise, and who have got children either with him or children from previous relationships. And we need to rule out whether there is a history of violence or activity towards those children.
Police have also revealed Darren Walker had a history of domestic violence, receiving a police caution 3 years ago. They now want to speak to his previous partners to build up a profile of the man Stacey's family trusted so much.
Now, you say that police are trying to build up this profile. What else do we know about Darren Walker, the man?
Well, apart from this one conviction for domestic violence, actual bodily harm, where he received a police caution 3 years ago, there is no other known offence committed on the police national database for Darren Walker. We do know that that domestic abuse carried on for some 3 years during the marriage to the woman that he was currently divorcing. Now, in terms of his relationship with Stacey Lawrence's mother, that has been ongoing for a year. Stacey had just started calling him Dad. There are 3 other children in that family. Police will obviously, in time, talk to them about Darren Walker. The family computer has been seized to see whether there is any pattern of behaviour here. But the key thing is, police say no one could have really predicted this because all the evidence suggests this was a normal family relationship. And tomorrow police are expected to release CCTV footage which shows the couple holding hands like father and daughter.
Neil, for now, thank you very much indeed. Well, next tonight, there have been calls for calm in Luton following more ugly scenes on its streets.
On Sunday afternoon, a group of youngsters, mainly Asian, threw fireworks and stones at police officers on the day of a banned right-wing march.
Well, tonight there are renewed calls for people across the whole community in Luton to ensure there's no further damage to the town's reputation. Matthew Hudson reports.
Amateur footage of the tense standoff between police and mostly young Asian demonstrators at Bury Park. Fireworks and rocks were thrown at officers. 2 people were arrested. It's believed incorrect rumours that a Muslim had been injured during a rally by far-right protesters led to these ugly scenes. Today, Bedfordshire Police said such actions by any group would not be tolerated.
I'd say to people, if they're planning to come to Luton to cause problems, it will be met with a police response which will be robust, fair and proportionate.
In fact, a proposed march by the little-known English and Welsh Defence League was abandoned after Home Secretary Alan Johnson issued a banning order. But this isn't the only violence to flare on Luton streets in recent months. In March, far-right supporters clashed with Islamic extremists who abused members of the Royal Anglian Regiment as they paraded through the town. Weeks later, Anglian News became caught up in a confrontation between moderate Muslims and fundamentalists who had been preaching in Bury Park. Today, a community spokesman called for calm.
What we do need to do is probably sit down with these different organisations and discuss with them, because what we don't want a situation where it's tit for tat. And we want to come, we don't want this spiraling out of control, especially when we have been having excellent relationships within the, relations within the community.
But just how damaging are such incidents to Luton's reputation? So today, Bury Park is perfectly peaceful, with members of all communities simply going about their business. But after a number of high-profile incidents, there are now genuine concerns that businesses and people won't want to settle in Luton because it's gained a reputation for having simmering ethnic tensions bubbling just below the surface. The Borough Council told us there can be no excuse for the violent acts of a few. The image of our town and peaceful lives of our community has been severely damaged. And everyone we spoke to had an opinion.
I don't know why people can't just really get on. I mean, let people have their own opinions and they'll be done with it. At the end of the day, it's Great Britain, isn't it?
It's just basically guidance, they do not get the guidance from, like, the mosque or, imam or anything like that. That's why they just throw stone and bricks,
People come down here and there's drugs and people violence and all sorts, and it's not good for, I've got a kid myself, and it's not good for my baby to grow up in something like that. As
Bury Park settles down again after the weekend's events, all moderate heads will be hoping it's the last flare-up the town witnesses. Matthew Hudson, Anglia News at Bury Park in Luton.
A Norfolk man whose son was killed in the Lockerbie crash says the release of official documents sheds no new light on the decision to free the man convicted of the bombing. 8 letters detailing correspondence between the UK and Scottish Government over the release of the bomber, Abdel Basit al-Megrahi, were published today. The Scottish Government says the documents justify the decision to release the Libyan on compassionate grounds. Martin Cadman of Burnham Market says he's surprised the saga dragged on so long.
I wouldn't say the wiser, but I would say the more perturbed to think that this had been going on for so long. And all that time, presumably Megrahi was known to have his condition, and yet he was strung along for 2.5 years.
A man from Luton has admitted stabbing his ex-girlfriend to death. 18-year-old Taylor Burrows suffered more than 40 wounds during the attack by Carl Oakley. It happened in February at a house on Enderby Road. Oakley, who's 23, today pleaded guilty to manslaughter at Luton Crown Court on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Judge John Bevan told him to expect a long prison sentence.
Now, they've been